Hello my friends all over the world, wherever you are. Today I'm making a special juice with Swiss chard, collard greens, and because it's close to Thanksgiving, I'm going to add one small pumpkin. Normally you would use these small pumpkins for pumpkin pie, but today it goes into the juice. Let's look at the rest of my ingredients. In addition to the collard greens and Swiss chard, I'm adding the pumpkin, of course, French sorrel, 145 grams of turmeric, 2 small avocado pits, and I'll bet you didn't know there was nutrition in avocado pits, ginger, a couple of Anaheim peppers, 2 bell peppers, and garlic, plus carrots, of course. Now before I start juicing, I want to show you that I'm using the front-loading feed tube that's exclusively made by Whole Health Foundation. I'm going to put on the near zero blowback cutter, which has 80 teeth cut into it. Let's do that now. And then I'm going to start by feeding some ice cubes in to cool the feed tube. So I'll feed in 2 or 3 ice cubes to cool down the feed tube and the cutter. And let's plug in the thermometer first. And I'm going to feed in not more than 2, because these are very large. I grow these with azomite, a mineral rock dust that makes your vegetables grow like they're on steroids. So I'll roll that into a tube. It's always better to feed the stem end in first. Continue with my collard greens. I'm up to 27 degrees. I can go as high as 35, but I like to keep mine below 20, so 3 or 4 more ice cubes. Now I'm going to feed in my Anaheim peppers. Then my garlic. Bell peppers, ginger, and my 2 avocado pits. Now avocado pits have to be fed very slowly. They're very, very dense. Now that I'm done with my greens, I'm going to prepare the pumpkin. I think we could probably juice that part of it. And I'm going to cut the bottom and the top out. Make sure you wash your pumpkin. You want it to be as clean as possible. This is organic. I grew it in my own backyard. So we'll cut this piece off because we're going to juice that. And then we'll cut this into manageable pieces. About an inch, inch and a half wide. Now that I've cut my pumpkin into manageable sizes, the first thing I'm going to do is clean my grid, make it a little easier to shred the pumpkin. Pumpkin, seed, skin and all. We're up over 20, so I'm going to put in a couple of more ice cubes. And then the rest of the pumpkin. My pumpkin, and then I'll start with carrots. Do the seeds also. A lot of nutrition in pumpkin seeds. Some people even dry them for snacks. But we're going to juice these. Next we'll start with carrots. Sometimes you can take your carrots and put the wide end to the small end, feed a couple at a time, and see if that's going to be happening here. Well, we can just get last of my carrots. Now, first of all, I just love this front-loading feed tube for many reasons. One, you can see in here, and I see that most of my produce is shred, but to just make sure, I'm going to put a couple of fingers full of pulp in there and force through any plug of carrot that might be down there. Next, I'm going to clean the feed tube, the cutter, and then press juice. Every juicer that's sold by Whole Health Foundation comes with a cleaning brush, and you use that both to clean the motor front plate and the feed tube. Now my feed tube, because of cleaning with the brush, is almost like new. I've seen some feed tubes come into my shop with such a buildup that it took a wire brush to get rid of it. So the next thing I'm going to do is spray it with water, because I have a kitchen sprayer, and then reassemble. Now I want to remind you to assemble the feed tube before you mix your juice, and if your grid fits sloppy, put a little bend in it so it has some tension when it goes in there, and it'll stay in and nothing will make it come out. And also remember the hold down on the cutter. Now mix the carrots and the greens and the other ingredients thoroughly. Rotate the bowl in both directions. You get a good mix that way. Now we've got a really good mix, and what I'm going to do, because I have gloves on, is clean the rim. Always wear gloves when you make juice, because you don't want to get all this green and color under your fingernails and on your hands. Cleanliness is very, very important. Now I keep my cloths in sets of 6 in the freezer. You keep them in the freezer because germs can't grow and no airborne contaminants. So we'll take these cloths and separate them and start making juice. There we go, we've unfolded all 6 cloths, so now we'll package them with pulp and make juice. Now you pull your container out so that the cloths don't touch the countertop, and you have room here to put your folded cloths. Now we'll put 3 scoops, about a cup to a cup and a half, 3 scoops into each cloth, and we'll fold them in thirds, as tight a package as you can make. Flatten that, pull it into a nice tight package, fold it in thirds again, as tight a package as you can make, set it aside, and we'll press 2 cloths full of pulp at one time, because you get better pressure that way and more juice. So again, fold it in thirds, flatten that, and let's get a collection bowl first. And then 2 cloths go in the press, centered left to right. Make sure it's on the press plate properly. Centered left to right, centered front to back, all the way back, back it off, and continue preparing cloths for pressing. 3 scoops in each cloth. When you're on your last cloth, advance that all the way. And here's my 6 cloth less work method. This goes forward, that goes over, the spent cloths go on top. And this goes in the press, centered left to right. Make sure the press is on the plate properly. Centered front to back, adjust it if need be, all the way back, back it off. Now you do not throw away this pulp. Most people will throw this away. Don't do that. Put 2 scoops on top of the spent pulp. Fold it into a tight package again. Later we'll put only 1 scoop, because this patty is getting thicker and thicker. And again, when you're on your last cloth, advance that all the way. Now, as you can see, my bowl is full, so I'm not going to press these cloths all the way. I will do that another time, because this is so full. So I'm going to shut my machine off, set the plate back, and put this into bottles. I'm leaving about 10%, because I'm going to fill it with filtered water or distilled water. Now, because these patties are very, very thick, I'm going to put 1 scoop on, not 2. You have to have these patties thin enough to fit 2 into the press. So we'll flatten that, set it aside, and when I'm on my last cloth, I'll advance that all the way. And remember, one scoop, one big scoop. This goes forward, that goes over. The pressed spent cloths go on top. 2 more cloths in the press, again centered left to right. Make sure the press plate's on properly, centered front to back, adjust it if need be, all the way back it off a little bit. And I'm using a spatula to get every scrap of this produce into my last cloth. I'll set this aside to clean later. And we'll fold the last cloth. And let's put this aside, put 2 more cloths in there, save a little bit of time. Right in the center, left to right, centered front to back. Make any adjustments you need to and back that off a little. While that's juicing, what I'm going to do with this spent pulp is I'm going to form it into a tight ball, press it again to show you how we can get 10% more juice out of this spent pulp. And your best juice with the best nutrients are in that last 10% of your squeeze. Your first 10% is mostly water. The middle part has a lot of nutrient, but this last 10% has the best nutrient and the most dense nutrients. Advance that all the way, flatten that, and we'll repackage this cloth. And it looks like my container's full enough that we can fill more bottles before we fold the rest of these cloths. So let's do that now. I'm going to set this back so it doesn't drip on the countertop. And I want to remind you, don't set it back just a little bit. It will break if you forget, and most people will forget. Make it a lot. And let's fill more bottles. This from the back side again so the camera gets a good look. And I'm reminding you I'm leaving about 10% for filtered or distilled water. I use distilled water because I have a water distiller. Well, my friends, as you can see, I have 3 repackaged double packets of juice. I'm going to put my tray on there properly. And I'm going to use a measuring beaker to measure how much extra juice we got. So far we have 10 bottles. Let's put 2 more cloths in here. Right in the center. Centered front to back, left to right, all the way back. Back it off a little bit. And as soon as we get juice flow, we'll advance that all the way. So far we've got 7 ounces. And we'll put those last 2 packets in there and then repackage these spent packets a second time. Looks like 10 ounces so far. Looks like we're going to get about 10 or 12 ounces out of these 3 packets. Now, as you can see, I have 19 ounces and it's going to overflow, so I'm going to stop it. I'm going to pour this into the collection container and then continue pressing. Now I decided to repackage it again. I got another 6 ounces of juice. So we've gotten over 2 extra bottles of juice from pressing this already spent pulp. Now let's fill some bottles. Now as you can see, I'm topping this off with distilled water. You could use filtered water. You could even use bottled water. And then I'm going to cap them and put them in the refrigerator. Now you'll notice I'm filling them so they kind of overflow a little bit. That way there's no air in the bottle whatsoever. And that way they will last up to 10 days. Well, my friends, we have 5, 10, 13 bottles of juice. And remember, over 2 of these came from pressing the already spent pulp. And I want to remind you that your best nutrients and your most valuable nutrients come from that last 10%. And quite frankly, most people throw that pulp away. They don't do what I've demonstrated in this video. So let's do a taste test. Your last step is always to rinse off the pulp from the clods, scrub them in cold water, not hot water. Get all the pulp off, and then fold them into thirds to press the water out, and into the freezer they will go. So we'll fold these into thirds. And the last step is to press the water out of the cloths, put them in the freezer, and of course the last step is to clean this upper plate and this side plate, which we'll do after we do the cloths. And I'm going to catch the water in any container, coffee cup or this. Alright, we'll put them in a plastic bag and they will go into the freezer. But before we finish, I want to clean this upper plate. We'll do that with both a sponge and a paper towel. You'd be surprised how many people forget to clean these parts. Well, my friends, here we have another juice, and this one has a small pumpkin in it. Let's see what it tastes like. I could taste mostly the French sorrel. Very tasty juice. French sorrel does make a juice very, very sweet. There's a little hint of pumpkin. Let me taste it again. Yeah, I'd say mostly French sorrel and pumpkin predominates this juice. Well, I hope you like what you've seen, my friends, and if you do, please tell a friend. If you'd like to telephone me, my phone number is 760-753-0321. My email address is developtrust@cox.net, and my webpage is wholehealthfound.com. See you in the next video.